everyone, welcome to the MTGSpecs top 15 cards of the year. This list is going to be quite different to other lists because it's a list of the best cards seen through the filter of this channel, which, as you may know if you're already a follower of this channel, we're all about game experience and deck building, and the cards that I've chosen feed into that. And this is Dexter, who's not interested in this list because there's not enough Rakdos in it. Because you like those sorts of cards, don't you, love? In fact, just to illustrate the fact that this isn't a power list, the top card of my 15 cards is a uncommon with a single line of text, the best card of the year. Anyhow, let's get started with card number 15. Card 15 is a wake-up call for entrenched board states filled with creatures whilst everyone sits back and is trying to assemble their combos or find their game-winning pieces, and then bam, you play Taunt from the Rampart from the Lord of the Rings set. Incredible card because it just shakes everything up. Everybody thinks they're safe and suddenly they are not. However, you get to swing out of your creatures and nobody can retaliate. Nobody can block. Who knows where the attacks are going to go, because with normal goad, usually it's the person after you who has to attack with everything because it's goaded that then gets the smackdown from everybody else because they've got no shields. But with this spell, nobody's got any shields. I just love big moments like this in Magic. Number 14 is a versatile 2/2 white creature from Wilds of Eldraine. It's Werefox Bodyguard. This is a Grasp of Fate on a flash creature, flash already being super relevant for combat, so we can just pop this 2/2 out, add its power to other blocking creatures, or just take out some pesky 1/1s. That flash with that Grasp of Fate XL means you can protect a creature that you have from removal, or you could remove that creature with an ETB so that you could sacrifice the Werefox because it's got an inbuilt sacrifice as well, which gains you life. Great life synergy there as well. You could re-trigger an ETB that was underneath it, or you can just use it to remove one of your opponent's creatures. So versatile, and it's also got some really interesting creature types. It's an elf, relevant. It's a knight, super relevant considering some of the cards we've had released this year, and it's a fox, which is relevant for me in a very fringe way because I would very much like to build Patron of the Kitsune, a card from Kamigawa, old Kamigawa, giving us a relevant fox for that deck. So yeah, super versatile, amazing card. Absolutely love Werefox Bodyguard. Number 13 is blue mass removal done right with Asinine Antics. When blue got phasing of Zalfir, wasn't into that because it had the word destroy on a blue card in connection to mass removal. Not a fan of that. Fan of this card though, because it's doing something that blue should be doing when it's removing things. It's, like blue turns things into pigs or sends things back to hands. Asinine Antics, which you can cast at instant speed if you pay a little extra, puts curse roll tokens onto opponent's creatures, making them all into 1/1s, and then if you can do that at flash speed, then you are going to have creatures walking into a battle that they're not going to win. That's how you destroy creatures in blue, just a few extra hoops to jump through. The best thing about this card though is the synergy with enchantments, because you are making enchantment tokens and you're making a lot of them, and again you can do that at instant speed. There are lots of cards in lots of decks that want a load of enchantments to come into play in different colours, and some in blue. So that's why Asinine Antics is my number 13 card of 2023. Number 12 is a throne, but it's not the throne that you're thinking of. It's the throne of the Grim Captain, and the Grim Captain on the reverse. The card that I nearly didn't put in this list because I thought it was too niche, but actually it perfectly exemplifies what MTGSpecs is all about. It's about deck building, solving deck building problems. Where does this card go? This card is cool. The back of this card is insane. It's over here, so I'm just going to read it to you. It's got Menace, Trample, Lifelink, and Hexproof, and whenever it attacks, everyone has to sacrifice a non-land permanent, and then one of the creatures that you had to exile to flip it over, because the throne of the Grim Captain asks you to craft with a dinosaur, a merfolk, a pirate, and a vampire. You can put that into play tapped and attacking. That is an amazing creature. That is a creature that I want to play with, but I've got a lot of hoops to jump through first, and I'm going to solve it, and that's why that's in this list, because this is something I'm going to solve. And actually, if you're interested in this deck that I'm trying to put together, pop a subscribe on because it's going to come in the new year and it'll be watched by 5 people, but it'll be totally worth it. So yeah, number 12 is my, probably my favourite card from Ixalan altogether, Throne of the Grim Captain. Number 11 is actually 5 cards because it's a cycle, and I do love a 5-colour cycle in Magic. It is the Praetor cycle from March of the Machines. These cards also exemplify something I absolutely love in Magic. It's lore done really well through game mechanics. It's also a story being told over 2 sides of a card, because the front poses a problem about how we get to the back. The back of the card is each of the Praetors' like master plan or their ethos. Getting to that side of the card involves, again, a deck building or a puzzle solving strategy. Sagas are my favourite modern design of the last 5 years because we are then telegraphing to everybody else we're playing with what is going to happen unless they can solve the problem that you have presented to them. If you manage to get the creature out, the Praetor out, and flip it and work through all 3 chapters, there should be an in-life achievement that pops up. I remember doing this with Jin-Gitaxias. Jin-Gitaxias' 3rd chapter is Omniscience. That's another thing I love about these cards. They have placed an iconic spell on the back as part of the Praetor's ethos. I think with Sheoldred it's like Rise of the Dark Realms, and on the red one, Urabrask, the Great Work, we're looking at a kind of Past in Flames, but for all graveyards. Incredible to pull off. So it's something I love. It's it's story through gameplay mechanics, a deck building problem, and a spectacle. With number 10, it's back-to-back villains. It is Etali Primal Conqueror, and this is on the list because it is a horrible card that really ups the threat level, therefore changing the dynamics of the game. When it comes into play, it's a fixed Etali, so it's going to ETB and be able to cast everybody's spells, but it's that 9 and green Phyrexian mana which is going to shift the game into overdrive. If you've cast it, expect to be the villain of the table, and everybody else has got this unifying moment where they have to deal with this problem, because if they don't, it's going to transform into a Blightsteel Colossus and one-shot one of them because it's got Trample Indestructible, and it's an 11/11 that creates a poison counter for each point of damage that it deals, combat damage. So it is the potential of taking someone out of the game. I must stress, I'm not talking about Etali as the commander, because I think that's kind of a one-dimensional play pattern, but in the 99 as a random monster that might turn up at some point, I think it is a solid card for just completely changing what's happening at the table. At number 9, it's time for peace across the multiverse with another white 2/2 versatile creature. It's Nesting Dovehawk, and the reason that I love Nesting Dovehawk is that it's a really unassuming 2/2, and if your opponents haven't played against it before, well, it can easily become a 10/10 very quickly, and then before they know it, they have this flying 10/10 pecking their eyes out. I also love the flavour of the fact that it looks peaceful, but if you check out the art, that's actually a Phyrexian symbol that it's carrying in its beak. It goes into so many different types of decks, new ones, old ones. Think about this with Avenger of Zendikar, getting all those plant tokens, and then we've got our 2/2 bear going as big as an Eldrazi. Really, really big, really, really quickly. So I'm a big fan of this card, and it's secured its spot at number 9. Number 8 is a black dragon and a beast for the people. It's Hoarding Broodlord. Ladies and gentlemen, it has exile on the card. So let's all say after 3, 1, 2, 3, prosper. Great, we've got that out of the way. He's a 7/6 flyer that builds up your board state, quite threateningly so, and can be done cheaply because of the Convoke. And then it sets up the future board state as well, which can also be cast cheaply because of Convoke, and also works with any deck that likes to exile things because of giving them all Convoke if you cast a spell from exile. So an amazing card in sense of it can come out early, it sorts out your board state, then it organises your board state for the future, and it also supports exile strategies, which we know are very popular. Did I mention that it's good in Prosper? Good, I just wanted to make sure that you saw that. And even if it leaves play, you can still cast the spell that's in exile, just can't cast it with Convoke. So yeah, super efficient. I like anything that can be played cheaply, and it's a tutor also, so we know that's powerful in Magic. So number 7 is the Hoarding Broodlord. Number 7 is the first vanilla creature to be printed since 2021 Strixhaven, and it is a commander. It's Yargle and Multani. Hilarious flavour text, ridiculous stats, and first look, you think, how is this going to be viable? And then you remember all the power-based cards that we have in green in terms of being able to draw cards, and all the fantastic things we do in black where we can sacrifice the creature and do something based on its power. But the main reason that Yargle and Multani is here is, apart from obviously it's posing questions about deck building, is that it's super restrained Magic design, and they prioritised the gag over loads of rules text. This was an absolute win for Magic design with very little design, and so that's why Yargle and Multani made number 7 on this list. Number 6 is one of 2 Universes Beyond cards on the list, and this one is again super niche, but I'm so glad that it exists. It's the Celestial Toymaker. So they dropped this at the end of the year, and I thought that was it for Magic spoilers. I was like, what am I going to do for content? And then not only did they drop something for content, but they dropped something that speaks to me on a like an internal DNA type level, because this is so niche. They've looked at, they've batched the concept of grouping things in piles and guessing games, and they've put them onto a commander. Magic Design keeps designing things for the niche deck builder out there. This is the perfect card. He wants us to ask our opponents to make difficult decisions. Fantastic. Player involvement, banter, there's political stuff going on with this card, and although I don't think the effect is particularly powerful chipping away for 2 power. In fact, I did a whole, there's a deck list for you, a deck tech, so if you're interested you can check out that video. It's not the effect of the card, it's what it presents, what it suggests in terms of how can I utilise this. I went with mini games. It's such a good card. It's so very niche, and I'm so grateful to Magic Design for designing cards which don't have the solution already printed on the cards. Not that those are terrible types of cards. I've already talked about the Praetors. Their solution is there, but you have to work for it. But this mischievous master of mini games is one of my favourite designs of the year. Number 5 on the list is the other throne. It's Roaming Throne. And hey, shout out to the Chair Tribal Magic community. You've got 2 cards with thrones on, you lucky things that you can put into your Chair Tribal decks. So I currently have 22 decks, and looking from this deck, this card can go in at least 10 of them, which makes it feel a bit Soul Ring energy, like it's a staple that can go in loads of different places. Now I must stress, its placement in this list is not really to do with design, because the design is super pushed and uninspired in my opinion. But what it represents for fringe decks, so those sorts of decks where you want to build around a creature type and you just don't have enough of those creatures. Let's say homunculus. This is a 4/4 homunculus with ward 2 that allows your homunculi triggers to trigger more than once. I think anything that's able to help the fringe deck builder support their tribe or their kindred is really important. But I do hope this is reprinted into the ground, because it is expensive and it's going to be appearing in lots of deck lists. I also like the fact of the spectacle of what it produces. Doubling and tripling things I live for, and it does that. So that's really great. But I have a slightly icky feeling about it being on this list. If it was the power list, it would be, you know, top 3. But it doesn't get top 3 in this list just because of the slightly uninspired and the slight ubiquity of, I think that's a word. You're going to see it everywhere, and people are just going to put it in their decks if it's got anything to do with creature types. In fact, you can put it in a deck with your commander that has triggered abilities, and just to re-trigger those as well, and it's 4 colourless, so it goes everywhere. Yeah, I'm in between, but fringe deck builders now have another creature type go alongside their metallic mimics and their adaptive automatons, and you know, I've got to support that. So that's why Roaming Throne is in this list. Number 4 is a commander that I had so much fun with this year that supports my favourite Magic design of the last 5 years. No, not battles, sagas. So he it gives us a 5-colour Saga Commander, and the reason that I adore Sagas is because of the constant 3 resources and game actions that they allow you to have after the initial payment, telegraphing those things to your opponents, so they have to start dealing with that and building their game plans and their future actions around that type of card. This guy legitimizes that strategy, also providing you with a legitimate threat. I said legitimate too many times. Also providing you with a threat from the command zone, indestructible and hexproof if you meet certain conditions. And yeah, it's supporting a card type which has removal and ramp, it has draw, it has everything, but it also has a big janky lore dump of flavour. Love reading out these cards to opponents, just giving them a little insight into what happened in Kaldheim or the Warhammer universe, or, you know, in Kamigawa. So I absolutely love that we've getting that lore alongside game mechanics, and we have a commander that helps us support that. I want to tell stories whilst I'm playing Magic the Gathering. Tom Bombadil allowed me to do that. Number 3 is a creative deck builder's dream, but a mathematician's nightmare. It's Gruff Triplets. And if you watch my Brenard Ginger Sculptor video, you will remember saying I just want to every game cast Gruff Triplets, because for 6 mana, you are creating 3 bodies with 9 power across all of them. And if someone decides to get rid of one of the Gruff Triplets, the other 2 will mourn and then get really hedge and grow really big. But it's the fact that it's tokens and +1/+1 counters that makes you instantly think, what happens if I have 3 doubling seasons on the board? Even with 1 doubling season on the board, a Gruff Triplet coming into play makes 4 bodies, and then if one of those should die, every other body will get +6/+6. And if another one of those bodies dies, they'll get +18/+18. I think my maths is correct there. This is the perfect kind of, here's the Venn diagram of Johnny's and Timmy's. I want to do big things. I want to cast big creatures. It's just the perfect thing. Perfection. What can I say? I just want Gruff Triplets to be out every single time. My number 2 is my favourite commander of the year, and you probably know who it is because I've mentioned him once or twice in this video already. It's Brenard Ginger Sculptor. Do you want a board state out of nowhere? Then Brenard is your guy. Opponents attacking you have got to deal with the fact that if you block with a creature and it dies, you're going to exile it and bring it back as a food golem, and because Brenard has an anthem attached to his card that gives them +2/+2 and trample, they're going to come back bigger and better. And of course you've built your deck with ETBs, because the first time something comes into play and it ETBs, well, when it dies and comes back as a token, it'll ETB again. And of course you've built your deck with LTBs, because when something leaves the battlefield, because it's been, you know, unfortunately killed, it will trigger its LTB, and then you'll have it as a food golem, which you can pay to sacrifice it to gain some life. So we've got life game synergies. It will trigger the LTB again. And on top of that, the food golem is food synergies and artifact synergies and golem synergies. It is insane. It is so good. Banned colours as well, loads of protection, some of the best spells in Commander. It's incredible. You're going to have to kill everything twice. And yeah, all this from an unassuming pastry chef with a Sweeney Todd fixation. He's my favourite commander of the year, but he did not hit the top spot. That goes to an uncommon card with only 1 line of text. So this number 1 card, which is an uncommon with 1 line of text, presents multiple game-ending possibilities, and it does it with the sleekest minutiae of design. It's Displaced Dinosaurs. So there's only one way for me to really convey to you why this ended up being my number 1, and that's with a cavalcade of examples of the insane things, the insane board states that this card represents. Clues, treasures, food. They come into play as 7/7 dinosaurs, which you can sacrifice for value. Ornithopter comes into play as a 0 casting cost 7/7 flying dinosaur. Signmaster Thopterist. Every time you cast an artifact, which comes into play as a 7/7 dinosaur, it creates another 7/7 dinosaur. Darksteel Citadel, that's an artifact land that comes into play as a 7/7 dinosaur. That taps 4 mana. Lands are free to cast. Tireless Provisioner, if you play a land, you get to create a 7/7 dinosaur. Mere Battlesphere is a mere construct, but it comes into play as a mere construct dinosaur, and it creates 4 more 7/7 dinosaurs. Incubate tokens, 7/7 dinosaurs. Clown car, roll a dice when that comes into play, and for each odd result, actually it's a load of dice, for each odd result amongst all the dice that you roll, it creates 7/7 dinosaur clown robots. You'll be up all night thinking of these ideas. You'll be having a conversation with someone and you'll go, Smothering Tithe creates dinosaurs, or Old Gnawbone, when it deals damage, creates that many 7/7 dinosaurs based on the damage that it's dealt. This card is insane. This card is a gift to wacky deck builders up and down the land. Oh, and also Shelob of Child of Ungoyliant, when creatures die, it turns them into 7/7 dinosaurs with their abilities on your side of the field. See, I keep thinking of them. That's just another one. You'll think of more. Put them in the comments. So that was my list of my favourite cards of 2023, and this is my opportunity to say thank you so much for everyone who hit subscribe this year. I started in April, and I'm 60 people away from being able to monetize this channel, which I never thought would happen. So thank you so much. I wish all of you many crazy board states and lots of memorable games. And until 2024, I have been Lee, and this has been MTGSpecs.